After the accident, I woke up to find my memories trapped in a time before Liu Ruyan and I had broken up. Disoriented and overwhelmed, I instinctively called him. My voice cracked with tears. Baby, my head hurts. There was a pause on the other end. Then his voice came through cold and biting. Zifeng, do you think playing with people's feelings is fun? He hung up before I could say another word. I sat there stunned, confused, broken. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. It was him. This better not be some stupid dare. Where are you? I told him the name of the hospital. 30 minutes later, Liu Ruyan appeared at my bedside. He was dressed in a sleek black suit, his usually immaculate appearance slightly disheveled from rushing. The moment I saw him, my nose stung and my tears flowed uncontrollably. I flung myself into his arms. He smelled faintly of perfume odd. He never used to wear any. Liu Ruyan froze. He gripped my wrist and gently pulled me away. What are you doing, sitting on the edge of the bed? My eyes reddened as I looked at him. Liu Ruyan, don't you love me anymore? I want to break up. He let out a cold laugh, almost mocking. Break up, Zifeng? We broke up 3 years ago. His words hit me like thunder. A sharp pain surged through my skull. I clutched my head, vision blurring as the room spun. Just before I passed out, I saw him pressing the emergency button, calling frantically for a doctor. When I woke again, the sky outside had already turned dark. The room was quiet. He was gone. Later, the doctor explained that I had suffered memory loss due to a blood clot in my brain. There was no guarantee when or if my memories would return. Lying there alone, flashes of sweet moments with Liu Ruyan floated through my mind like fragile dreams. He had always spoiled me. He would never lie. He would never say those things unless something had gone terribly wrong. The more I thought about it, the more my chest tightened. I began to cry. Just then, the door opened with a soft creak. Liu Ruyan entered, holding a lunchbox. He was still wearing the same black outfit, his tall figure casting long shadows in the room. I couldn't hold it in. My tears flowed again. I thought you left me. He offered me a tissue in silence. I wiped my tears and my nose and watched as he sat beside me, placing the lunchbox on the side table. The rich aroma of oxtail soup filled the air. My stomach growled loudly. Without saying a word, he ladled a bowl of soup and held it out to me. I didn't take it. Instead, the words slipped out soft and familiar. Baby, can you feed me? His hand paused midair, his gaze narrowing like he didn't recognize the person in front of him. Realizing what I had said, I hurried to correct myself. Sorry, I'm just used to calling you that. I'll stop. Eventually, you call Chen Yushu that too, don't you? He asked coldly. You're injured. Why isn't he here, Chen Yushu? The name triggered a faint, foggy memory. He was a senior from university who once confessed to me. Liu Ruyan had always been irrationally jealous of him. But why bring him up now? Liu Ruyan said nothing more. I didn't have the strength to argue. Every time I tried to recall the past, pain would explode behind my eyes. So I just stared at the meat in the soup. Are you going to feed me or not? After a moment's hesitation, he moved the chair closer. Careful, it's hot. As he spooned the soup toward my lips, I pouted playfully. Sit a little closer. He hesitated but eventually obliged. His movements were slower now, more composed. more deliberate. He hadn't changed much, but something in him had matured. The arrogance of youth was gone, replaced by a quiet steadiness. A dull ache swelled in my chest. Why did we break up? The question remained unspoken, hanging in the air like fog. Before he could answer, his phone rang. He stood up to take the call, not even glancing back as he walked out of the room. Alone again, I rummaged through my bag and found a train ticket. The departure station was over 1,000 kilometers away, where the accident had happened. Fragments of memory flickered in my mind, scattered and impossible to piece together. The next day, 2 police officers arrived. They informed me that the driver who caused the accident had been caught. His reason: he was in a bad mood. As for compensation, I would have to handle that myself. Later that night, the doctor reminded me to settle my hospital bills, but when I tried to pay, my card was declined. I panicked and handed over another one. Same result. The cashier frowned. "If you don't have money, step aside. Let someone else pay." Shame burned through my cheeks. Just as I was about to say something, a pale hand reached over and slid a black card across the counter. Liu Ruyan. He paid wordlessly. The cashier's attitude flipped instantly. "Thank you, sir. Here's your card." Liu Ruyan took it back and said coolly, "Apologize to him. Or would you rather deal with a formal complaint?" The cashier mumbled a stiff apology. Back in the hospital room, he set the food down and turned to leave. Panic gripped me. I leapt from the bed and wrapped my arms around his waist, burying my face into his neck like I used to. His body stiffened. He stood frozen. "Zifeng." His voice was low and hoarse. "Let go." But I didn't. "I feel dizzy." I whispered, eyes wide with pleading. He stood silent for a second. Then in one swift motion, he picked me up. I gasped and instinctively clung to his neck. "Liu Ruyan, what are you doing?" Without a word, he gently tossed me onto the bed. The tenderness shattered in an instant, replaced by a silence too awkward to ignore. A week later, I was discharged from the hospital. He picked me up in a sleek luxury car. I stared at it blankly for a second before quietly getting in. During my recovery, he continued bringing food, staying just long enough to sit through a few video meetings or answer work calls. It was distant, but comforting. Curious, I began searching for him online. What I found left me speechless. Liu Ruyan had always been ambitious. Back in our junior year, he dreamed of starting his own gaming company. He had been the top scorer in the National College entrance exam and got into Nanda University with the highest marks. He'd won countless awards, game design contests, innovation prizes, coding competitions. Even back then, he was already remarkable. Now, in just 3 years, he had turned that dream into a successful reality. The internet adored him. He was brilliant, respected. Even male fans playfully called him their goddess. And yet, this goddess had once spoiled me, loved me fiercely, and now sat quietly by my side again, like nothing had changed. Liu Ruyan had always been incredibly popular at Nanda University. He was brilliant, confident, and strikingly beautiful. He stood out wherever he went. But what everyone at school also knew was how deeply he loved me. No matter how many admirers surrounded him, I was the only one who mattered. He spoiled me shamelessly, and I had eyes only for him. I was lost in those memories when his voice pulled me back to the present. So, Where are you staying now? I pulled out my phone and opened my hotel booking on Meituan. After the accident, the doctor had advised me to contact my family. But when I scrolled through my mom's WeChat messages, my heart sank. She had already remarried and moved away from Nanchang. No wonder I'd ended up in a hotel rather than her home. Liu Ruyan fell silent. I noticed the way his fingers tightened subtly around the steering wheel. I took a deep breath, steadying my emotions. Then, without thinking, I asked Liu Ruyan, "Do you have a boyfriend?" The light ahead turned red, and the car gradually slowed. He turned to look at me, his eyes unreadable, cloaked in emotion I couldn't decipher. "No," he said simply. I smiled sweetly. "Then, can I stay at your place?" He didn't argue. After picking up my luggage, he drove me to his apartment, an upscale building in the heart of the city. The apartment itself was spacious, immaculate, and stylishly decorated. Curious, I wandered through the rooms. There was no trace of another man living there. He placed my suitcase in the guest room, and without another word, disappeared into his study for a video meeting. That meeting dragged on for over an hour. Bored, I flipped through TV channels until my stomach began to rumble. I found the fridge fully stocked with fresh ingredients, so I decided to make something simple. But I wasn't careful while chopping vegetables. I sliced my finger. Ow! I winced. Moments later, Liu Ruyan rushed into the kitchen, his eyes quickly finding the blood on my hand. "What happened?" he asked, a trace of panic in his voice. Before I could answer, he grabbed my wrist and led me to the living room. He made me sit on the couch while he crouched in front of me, disinfecting the wound with gentle, precise movements. Then he wrapped it in a cartoon print bandage, Chibi Maruko-chan, my favorite. I stared at him, my throat tight with emotion. "I'm sorry. I was hungry. I thought I'd cook." He looked up, his dark eyes locking onto mine. Then, surprisingly, he chuckled. "Zifeng, that's so unlike you." He ruffled my hair. "Come on, let's go eat." That night, he took me to the food street near Nanda University to our favorite beef noodle place. In my memories, it looked the same, but now the decor was completely different. Time had changed even this. "Do you come here often?" I asked after we sat down. He poured me a cup of tea and handed it over. "Not really." Trying to sound casual, I probed further. "Have you brought any other guys here?" His expression darkened. He didn't answer. I studied his face. He no longer wore his heart on his sleeve. Gone was the boy who used to express every feeling with such openness. Now, his emotions were guarded, buried beneath a composed exterior. Still, I couldn't help but ask again. "So, have you, or haven't you?" Before he could respond, the owner's booming voice announced our order. 2 bowls of steaming beef noodles arrived. The rising steam blurred Liu Ruyan's features. I took a sip. It tasted just like I remembered. Then silently, he added more beef to my bowl. "Habit," he said flatly. I blinked, unsure. Was that his answer? Later that night, after showering, I curled up on the couch to watch TV. Liu Ruyan remained in his study, likely still buried in work. Feeling aimless, I shuffled down the hallway and knocked on his door. "Liu Ruyan, can I borrow your computer?" He opened the door and leaned casually against the frame, eyeing me with mild curiosity. "What for?" "I want to write a resume," I replied. "I don't plan to leave Nanchang this time. I want to settle here. His brows rose slightly. You said, what? Then he stepped aside and let me in. I sat down at the desk, but the computer was locked. I looked at him expectantly. What's the password? He hesitated, then walked over and leaned in, typing 4 digits. He was so close I could feel his breath against my cheek, warm and familiar. My heart thudded uncontrollably. Before I could think, I leaned in and planted a soft kiss on his cheek. You still haven't answered my question from the noodle shop, I whispered. He froze. His eyes flickered like moonlight reflecting on water. Then he murmured, what about you? Did you come back to Nanchang for Chen Yushu? Or for me? Chen Yushu again? Could our breakup have been because of him? I racked my brain trying to remember. Nothing. My mind was a blank slate. Frustrated, I tapped my forehead, only to have Liu Ruyan gently catch my wrist. Forget it, he said, with a small, bitter smile. Why argue with someone who doesn't even remember? Then he walked out, his figure slowly fading into the dim hallway. I watched him go, a pang tightening in my chest. Strangely, a flash of memory returned to me, a similar scene on the night we broke up, when I had watched him leave in the exact same way. Since then, he'd been busier than ever, leaving early, coming home late. He arranged for his lawyer to help me pursue compensation for the accident, hired a housekeeper to make sure I ate well, and just like that, I began living in his home again. That weekend, I returned to the hospital for a follow-up, hoping perhaps foolishly that something would trigger the return of my lost memories. After a brief examination, the doctor gave me a clinical explanation. There's a term for this psychogenic amnesia, he said. Sometimes when a memory is too traumatic, the brain chooses to forget in order to protect you. He paused, then added gently, if you truly want to recover, you can try hypnosis or revisit familiar places and people. Triggered recall might help. As I left the hospital, his words echoed through my head like a quiet chant tugging painfully at my heart. I wandered aimlessly until I found a bench by the roadside and sat there, unmoving for what felt like hours. Then the click of high heels pulled me out of my trance. A familiar voice followed, Zifeng. I looked up. Liu Ruyan was standing in front of me. When I didn't respond, he squatted down, meeting my eyes with concern. Why are you crying? He reached out and gently wiped away a tear from my cheek. I'm not crying, I muttered stiffly. Something just got in my eye. Then let me blow it away, he said. And before I could protest, he leaned in and softly blew at my eyes, just like he used to. My breath caught in my throat, my cheeks flushing. He had clearly come straight from work. On the way to the car, he took a call. It sounded like someone was inviting him to dinner. Standing beside the car, I hesitated. I can just take a cab home. Without a word, he opened the door for me. The housekeeper's off today, he said. There's no food at home. That word home fell into my chest like a stone, sending ripples I couldn't control. It's just a few of my college friends, Gu Ching Ching, and the others, he added. Want to join Gu Ching Ching? That name rang a bell. She had been one of his old roommates. Wouldn't that be inappropriate? I hesitated. He didn't insist. Then you pick a place. I thought for a moment. Where are they eating near Nanda? The doctor's advice surfaced again. Go back to where it all began. I nodded, agreeing to go with him. Traffic was heavy, and by the time we arrived at the restaurant, the private room was already full. The moment I stepped inside, the lively chatter came to an abrupt halt. The air shifted subtle, but undeniably tense. Liu Ruyan's gaze swept the room and paused on a familiar face. I followed his eyes and froze. It was Chen Yushu. He gave me a polite smile. Out of courtesy, I smiled back. But as I turned my head, I met Liu Ruyan's intense gaze. His lips had drawn into a tight line, displeasure clear in the depths of his dark eyes. Gu Qingqing stood raising her wine glass. Ruyan Jie, you're late. Bottoms up as punishment. She poured a nearly full glass of wine, and as if just noticing me, feigned surprise. Oh, you brought someone with you. Liu Ruyan didn't respond. He simply downed the wine in one gulp and shot Gu Qingqing a cold, warning glance. Add another chair, he told her curtly, but she ignored him, her eyes glinting mischievously. Isn't this Zifeng? What couldn't make it on your own out there? So you came back to cling to Ruyan Jie. His expression darkened. His whole body went rigid. Ching Ching, that's enough. What did I say something wrong? She snapped. Who was it that walked away when Ruyan was at his lowest? Huh? Wasn't it him, Zifeng? The room fell silent. Everyone watched expressions unreadable, none of them kind. Chen Yushu opened his mouth as if to say something, but ultimately remained quiet. I stood frozen, my nails digging into my palms. Forget it, I whispered. I shouldn't have come. Gu Qingqing rolled her eyes and motioned for the server to add a chair. But before it arrived, I felt Liu Ruyan's warm hand wrap around mine. He led me out without another word. Just as we reached the door, a sharp male voice called after us. Liu Ruyan Zifeng's dad is a murderer. You'd better stay away from him. I stopped in my tracks as if nailed to the ground. My hand slipped from his, and with it, a crushing emptiness filled my chest. My lips turned pale. I trembled, knees threatening to give way. But just as I was about to collapse, a pair of arms caught me. That has nothing to do with him, Liu Ruyan said, his voice calm yet firm. I know him better than any of you. What happens between us is none of your business. Back in the car, he buckled my seatbelt and looked at me, guilt flickering in his eyes. I didn't know Gu Qingqing invited so many people, or that she'd say those things. Don't let it get to you. His voice was soft, cautious. I could see the worry he was trying to hide. In that moment, I realized beneath the calm exterior, he hadn't really changed at all. I nodded slowly, trying to collect myself, my hands twisted in my lap, still shaking. Then he reached out again and held them firmly in his. Don't force yourself to remember the past, he said. If it hurts, let it go. Let's just eat. Okay, I met his eyes, gentle, unwavering, and nodded again. That night, I woke from a nightmare drenched in cold sweat. My pillow was soaked. Then a knock came at the door. I curled into myself on the bed, hugging my knees. My whole body trembled. The door opened. Soft, hurried steps approached. Zifeng, the voice called. I knew it instantly. I looked up. Liu Ruyan sat beside me on the bed. Moonlight washed over his face, casting shadows beneath his sharp features. It's me, he whispered. Then he wrapped his arms around me, gently rubbing my back. His familiar scent enveloped me, collapsing the defenses I had worked so hard to rebuild. I buried myself in his shoulder and sobbed uncontrollably. My tears soaked his shirt collar. The cruel words from the restaurant still rang in my ears. I had tried to forget them, bury them, but they returned again and again like a haunting reel I couldn't stop. It had all started in our senior year of college. That was when Liu Ruyan began building his startup, and it was around the same time that my father Zifeng became addicted to gambling. After my mother remarried, he changed completely irresponsible, lazy, always hanging around, with bad influences, spending his days at mahjong tables and backroom bets. When he lost, he came straight to me for money. At first, it was just a few bills, but the amounts grew rapidly. Then one day, he showed up at my office building during rush hour, grabbing my bag strap with a forced grin. "Son, did you get paid? Help your old man out a little." "Yeah," I dragged him aside, frowning. "You went gambling again, didn't you? Weren't you supposed to be job hunting?" His eyes darted away. No, no, I didn't gamble," he muttered. "Just paying off some old debt." I took a deep breath to steady myself. "How much?" 50,000, he said. I froze. It felt like someone had slammed a brick against my skull. The afternoon sun blazed down, but my palms turned icy. 50,000 yuan, an astronomical figure for me at the time. I was still just an intern, earning barely 2,000 a month. Over the years, I dated Liu Ruyan. He had given me all his scholarship money, prize winnings, and part-time earnings. It added up to over 50,000. I hadn't spent a single cent. I'd saved it all for us. "No," I said coldly, my voice sharper than I intended. "I'm not giving it to you." Zifeng rubbed his hands together, still trying to coax me. "Just this once, son. I swear I'll get my life together after this." When I stayed silent, his tone turned frantic. "If I don't pay them today, they'll beat me to death." A wave of fury surged through me. "Then let them beat you to death," I snapped. His palm came down hard across my face. But even after that, I didn't give him the money. What I didn't expect was that he would go find Liu Ruyan. I don't know how he did it, but he tracked him down right to the office building. That day, I bumped into him just outside. Something slipped from his hand as we collided a bank card. He had gone to Liu Ruyan for money. My blood ran cold. Rage clawed its way up my throat. I grabbed him by the collar, trembling with fury. "Give it back. Return the money to Liu Ruyan." He shoved at me and yelled, "Zifeng, do you want me dead?" People started peeking out from their offices, curious. Not wanting to embarrass Liu Ruyan, I loosened my grip. Zifeng took the chance and ran. Inside, Liu Ruyan pulled me gently to the couch, poured me a glass of water, and handed it to me. "Don't get angry," he said softly. "It's not good for your health." I stared at him, tears brimming. "You're tight on money too. If you gave him that money, what are you going to do?" He tapped my nose playfully. "I'll figure something out. Don't worry." My heart tightened heavy with guilt and gratitude. I reached into my bag, pulled out a card, and placed it in his hand. "All the money you ever gave me. I saved it. It's all in here." His eyes widened in surprise, but he said nothing. He didn't want to accept it until I threatened to break up. Finally, with a sigh, he gave in. "My wife is so capable," he teased with a warm smile. His eyes gleamed with affection. Then he kissed me urgent and intense, pressing his lips against mine, like he couldn't bear to let go. After that, Ziminghua vanished for a while. Liu Ruyan's startup began to stabilize. For the first time in a long time, things felt hopeful. But peace never lasted long. One afternoon, I overheard whispers at the office, rumors that Liu Ruyan's company was running out of cash. And right at that moment, Ziminghua reappeared. He was a mess, bruised, bloodied, and limping. He dropped to his knees in front of me, begging for 100,000 yuan. It felt like the sky collapsed. A crushing wave of helplessness swallowed me whole. I threw what little cash I had at him. My voice was raw with anguish. "We're done. I want nothing to do with you anymore." But even then, he didn't change. Instead, he went straight to Liu Ruyan again. "You're some big boss now, and you don't even have 100,000 to spare." "What kind of company is this?" he sneered. "I've only got one son. If you want to marry him, you'll have to go through me first. Think of it as a dowry, pay me in advance. If you don't, I'll camp outside your building every day." Liu Ruyan's voice cut in low, cold, and commanding. "Mr. Z, do you know why you're even allowed to stand here right now? Don't push your luck." Then he pulled out a check. "Here, take your 100,000 and stay away from him." I was just outside the meeting room, my hand on the doorknob, when I heard those words. I let go. My fingers slipped, and I slid down the wall, my knees giving out beneath me. In that moment, I felt like nothing but a burden, a weight Liu Ruyan was forced to carry. That night, I told Ziminghua that Liu Ruyan and I had broken up. Somehow, the words got back to him. He was already under immense pressure, scrambling to meet with investors, attending networking dinners every night, coming home reeking of wine and exhaustion. One night, he wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, resting his chin in the crook of my neck. "Zifeng," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Just give me a little more time. Please, don't leave me." My heart shattered. Tears flooded my eyes. "Liu Ruyan, I'm so tired," I said softly. "Every night I wait for you. I worry about everything, our rent, food bills. I don't want to live like this anymore." His tears burned against my skin. After a long pause, he murmured just one word: "Okay." After that night, I moved out and stayed with a friend. Only when I arrived did I realize my friend was sharing the apartment with Chen Yushu. Living under the same roof, it was inevitable that we saw more of each other. Then one evening, Liu Ruyan showed up. His eyes were red, his nose flushed from the cold. He looked like he'd been waiting outside for hours. When he pulled me into his arms, his unkempt hair brushed against my cheek. "Zifeng," a voice interrupted. "You're here too." Liu Ruyan Chen Yushu appeared behind me, his tone polite, his smile gentle. Liu Ruyan froze. Slowly, he let go of me. My heart sank. "We were just about to eat," Chen Yushu said. "Want to join us?" Liu Ruyan didn't respond. His eyes locked onto mine, searching for something. I opened my mouth, wanting to explain, but no words came out. I had already made my decision. I was leaving Nanchang. That night was the last time we saw each other, until fate brought us together again. I moved to the city where my mother now lived, and eventually Ziminghua found me there too. At last, He left Liu Ruyan alone. For the first time in a long while, I could breathe again. But he didn't change. Instead, my father broke into someone's home, attempted a robbery, and ended up taking a life. The case exploded across the media, becoming a national scandal. And me, I was branded the son of a murderer. The fallout was immediate and brutal. First came my mother. Her attitude shifted overnight. Where once there had been warmth, now there was distance, cold and unyielding. Zifeng, I'm sorry, she said, unable to meet my eyes. But I have my own family now. Here's 50,000. Please go back. Even my landlord turned his back on me. Without warning, he threw my luggage into the hallway. Mr. Zifeng, he barked, your father's case has everyone nervous. The entire building's buzzing. No one wants to live next to the son of a killer. Just move out. He even waived my rent. I don't want any trouble. And then came the final blow my company. Polite, but firm. Zifeng, this is your termination notice. Your severance package will be paid in full. But please, complete the departure process as soon as possible. It felt as if the entire world had shut its doors on me. Oddly enough, the only people who hadn't forgotten me were the debt collectors. In the end, I dragged my suitcase through the streets alone. And just like that, I vanished from Nanchang for more than 2 years. That night, I told Liu Ruyan everything, through broken sobs, every piece of the nightmare I had kept hidden. Liu Ruyan, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He gently wiped the tears from my cheeks, his eyes fixed on mine. You didn't do anything wrong, he said softly. You don't need to apologize to me. His voice dropped, filled with pain. I only blame myself for being too young, too foolish, for not being there when you needed me most, for leaving you to carry all of that alone. He looked down, his expression shadowed. Back then, I was drowning in debt. I couldn't even stay on my feet, let alone give you the happiness you deserved. And when I saw you with Chen Yushu, he paused, his smile tinged with bitterness. The day you left Nanchang with him, I went to the airport. My breath hitched. I saw you hugging him, he finished. My heart dropped. That was just a friendly hug. I blurted, eyes wide. Liu Ruyan. I was never with anyone else, the one I've always loved. It's only ever been you. His gaze softened, the edges of his peach blossom eyes shimmering. He leaned in closer. So, you really came back to Nanchang for me? Of course I did, I whispered. It was never about Chen Yushu. Before I could finish, his lips crashed into mine. It was urgent, rough, laced with years of longing and regret. His hand slid around my waist, instinctively, finding the shape of me tracing what he once knew by heart. Startled, I stumbled back, my heels bumping into the headboard. He followed me step by step until I had nowhere left to go. Open your mouth, he murmured against my lips, breath-hot voice low. The tension between us sparked like electricity thick in the air. Just when I thought I would drown in it, he suddenly pulled away. He stood upright, breathing hard. A flush climbed up his neck, even his ears turning red. I stared at him, dazed, my heart thudding wildly in my chest. Then hesitantly, I reached out and tugged at the hem of his shirt. Liu Ruyan, does this mean we're officially a couple again? Moonlight streamed in from the window, soft and silver. He let out a light laugh, took my hand, and pressed a kiss to my fingers. "Boyfriend," he whispered, "it's been a while." From that day forward, I moved back in with him without hesitation. I threw myself into job hunting early mornings, late nights, one interview after another. A week later, I finally landed a job. I called Liu Ruyan, my voice bubbling with excitement as I relayed every little detail of the interview. And guess what? I finished breathlessly. My new office is right across the street from yours. On the other end, he chuckled. "My amazing husband," he teased. Grinning, I matched his tone in a playful falsetto. "President Liu, can I hitch a ride with you to work tomorrow?" "Not just tomorrow," he said. "Every day. No can do," I replied. "I get weekends off." He laughed, the sound low and fond. "Where are you now? I'll come pick you up." I gave him the address and hung up. But just as I turned around, a familiar voice called out, "Zifeng." I turned. It was Chen Yushu. "It really is you," he said, smiling. "You're here for an interview." "Yeah," I nodded. "How'd it go? I got the job." "Congrats," he said warmly. "That's great." We exchanged a few pleasantries. Then his expression shifted. That night at the restaurant, we didn't really get to catch up. "How about dinner sometime?" "Sorry," I said, polite but firm. "I'm actually waiting for someone." His pause was brief but telling. He must have known. When he mentioned Liu Ruyan's name, I couldn't help it. My smile gave me away. I nodded. "His company's nearby." Before he could reply, a car horn cut through the moment. We both turned. A sleek silver Porsche pulled up to the curb. The driver's door opened, and a tall figure stepped out, long legs in black leather boots, coat fluttering as he adjusted his collar. Liu Ruyan stood by the car, cool and composed, his gaze sweeping over us. When his eyes found mine, his expression softened slightly. I raised a hand, smiling. "Liu Ruyan." His features relaxed. With a few confident strides, he reached me, slipped an arm around my shoulders, and pulled me close. Then, glancing at Chen Yushu, he said in a perfectly courteous tone, "Ah, Miss Chen, you're here too. We're heading to dinner. Care to join us?" I blinked. That exact line. It was the same thing Chen Yushu had said to Liu Ruyan 3 years ago, the night everything fell apart. A laugh bubbled up in my throat. So he does hold grudges. Chen Yushu seemed to remember too. His expression twitched for a second before returning to polite neutrality. "So, you two are back together?" he asked carefully. Liu Ruyan smiled, that infuriatingly confident smile of his. "Mm-hmm." Chen Yushu didn't respond, but the polite smile on his face never reached his eyes. "That's good." Back in the car, Liu Ruyan leaned over to buckle my seatbelt. I couldn't resist teasing him, so I reached out and gently poked his cheek. "You jealous?" He didn't answer. Instead, he suddenly turned his face toward mine, his breath warm as it brushed against my skin. He was so close, I could see each individual lash, long and thick, like they were drawn with ink. My heart skipped a beat. On instinct, I leaned forward and kissed him on the lips. He froze. Then, almost instantly, his hand slid behind my head, pulling me closer as he deepened the kiss with aching intensity. "My love," he whispered hoarsely in my ear, his voice low and rough. "Don't smile that sweetly at anyone else." "Okay?" I wasn't. I murmured back, my lips brushing his. "Only you." And just like that, we began living together, unapologetically, sweetly. Every morning at 8 a.m., Liu Ruyan would drive me to work. When we arrived at my office building, he'd reach into the back seat and pull out a mysterious bag. "What's this?" I asked, curiously, reaching for it. But he stopped me, gently pressing my wrist. "Don't open it until after work." "Humph, such a tease," I pouted, though my heart danced with anticipation. He pinched my cheek, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Be good." The entire workday, I squirmed in my seat, distracted by curiosity. I checked the clock every 5 minutes, mentally, counting down until I could finally see what was inside. At last, when the clock struck 6, I tore into the box like a child opening a gift. A telescope. I stared at it confused. I picked it up, turned it over, checked for hidden buttons or compartments, but there were none. It was just a plain, ordinary telescope. "Seriously," I muttered to myself, "isn't this just normal?" Still, I brought it up to my eye and scanned the view outside. My office was on the 15th floor, facing another building of the same height. That floor had always been vacant, but today the lights were on, and in the window stood a silhouette I knew better than anyone: Liu Ruyan. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling glass golden dusk light, draping him like a painting. My heart thudded wildly. I already knew. I could guess what he was about to do. One by one, he raised balloons above his head. Written on each were words that made my vision blur: Zifeng, I love you. My eyes filled with tears, and then I laughed. Cried and laughed at the same time, overwhelmed by joy. My phone vibrated. A message from Liu Ruyan. "I'm waiting downstairs." I grabbed my bag and bolted from the office. The elevator crawled unbearably slow during rush hour, but when I finally made it outside, there he was standing tall, bouquet of roses in hand, arms open wide. His eyes sparkled like stars. Extra. After the breakup. After Zifeng moved out, the once lively apartment felt like a tomb. The silence was deafening. In those early days, I saw him everywhere. His busy figure flitting from room to room, like a little bee cleaning, organizing, bringing warmth to every corner of the space. I'd open my arms in the emptiness, half expecting him to bounce lightly into my embrace with that sweet, radiant smile. But every time I blinked, the vision would vanish. Maybe I was sick. I regretted everything. Through mutual friends, I found out where he had moved. I waited downstairs for hours, pacing, hoping. And then I saw him. He looked thinner. His oversized coat swallowed his frame. I wanted to pull him into my arms and never let go. So I did. I buried my face in his scent arms around his waist, holding him as tightly as I could. I was afraid that if I blinked again, he'd disappear. But then, a voice called out, a stranger's voice. I turned, stiffened. It was Chen Yushu, the woman I had once warned him about. She called him Zifeng, with a familiarity that twisted in my gut. Jealousy roared in my chest, followed by a sickening wave of helplessness. I forced myself to keep calm. I looked into Zifeng's eyes, searching for something, anything, an explanation, a reason. But his gaze held nothing. No warmth, no emotion. Later, I heard the news he was leaving Nanchang. I snapped. Like a madman, I ran through the airport, lungs burning. And then I saw him. He was hugging Chen Yushu, right in front of me. I stopped, gasping for air, my chest tight with heartbreak. The ground disappeared beneath me. But what could I have done to stop him? My company was drowning in debt. He was still chained to a father who bled him dry. How could I ask him to stay, to carry more pain? I laughed bitterly, lowering my head. Above, the plane's roar tore across the sky, trailing a long white line that slowly faded. Then came the call, his voice on the other end of the line. Baby. My head hurts. He called me baby. My mind went blank. Maybe he dialed the wrong number. Maybe he was joking. But after I hung up, I couldn't sit still. My heart wound tight like a string on the verge of breaking. I waited, hoping, praying he'd call again. He didn't. In the conference room, people stared. Some whispered. I stood up. Meeting paused. I said simply, grabbing my coat. Because I thought, maybe this time, heaven was giving me one last chance. And this time, I wouldn't miss it.